Hello, I'm Rick Bayshard, and thank you for visiting my channel. Today I want to talk about guilt, which is something that I will talk about a lot as I do these videos, because guilt is a fundamental tool within the ego dynamics that keeps us stuck. And it's important to understand how guilt ultimately sustains this whole world that we're in. And I'm going to explain that to some extent in this video, and to show you that ultimately the world that we live in is something that we made in a way to escape from our guilt. It's not something that God had anything to do with, okay? So the idea or the experience of guilt at the mind level is something the ego made, because within the dream of separation, one of the ways the ego was able to substantiate that it actually occurred was the thought of guilt or the experience of guilt. We feel we did something wrong, okay? And it's that feeling that underscores or substantiates that we must have, because if we didn't do anything, there'd be nothing to feel guilty about. Now, at the mind level, within the dream, before the making of the world, of time and space and bodies, this guilt, okay, is profound. There's really no words to describe it. It was so traumatic that it's one of the reasons why we made this world, to escape it. We denied it, repressed it, we come here, and then the guilt seeps out of all of us, which we project onto everybody. But the point in that last sentence is that we made the world as a way to step away from the guilt, to get rid of it, but it didn't really work because it comes out here in so many forms. So we come into this world and we think God made us, we think God made the world, and God has nothing to do with it. And that's important to understand, because we want to be consistent with the metaphysics, because it allows us to be consistent with every other thing we're going to think about regarding, how we see our brothers and sisters, how we forgive, and so on. And so today I'm going to read just something here from A Course in Miracles regarding guilt, and how insane it is to think that God would have made this world. And much of this book is very, very poetic, and I love the way it says things. But this short paragraph I found very interesting, and I'm going to read it, and then I'll talk about some more, and you'll get a sense of what today's video is about. All right? So this particular paragraph comes from chapter 13, and it's called The Guiltless World. And I'm just reading a couple things here from it. All right? So it says here, the acceptance of guilt into the mind of God's Son was the beginning of the separation, as the acceptance of the atonement is its end. The world you see, meaning the world we all live in here, is the delusional system of those made mad by guilt. Look carefully at this world and you will realize that this is so. For this world is the symbol of punishment, and all the laws that seem to govern it are the laws of death. Children are born into it through pain and in pain. Their growth is attended by suffering, and they learn of sorrow and separation and death. Their minds seem to be trapped in their brain, and its powers to decline if their bodies are hurt. They seem to love, yet they desert and are deserted. They appear to lose what they love, perhaps the most insane belief of all. And their bodies wither and gasp and are laid in the ground and are no more. Not one of them but has thought that God is cruel. If this were the real world, God would be cruel, for no father could subject his children to this as the price of salvation and be loving. So as we look at this world and we see how horrible it is, planes crash, people get sick with cancer, we made this to justify our guilt and to give reasons why we're unhappy and so on. And unfortunately, within this dream of separation where we're in this world, we make up a God, okay, who's very much like us. He changes his mind. He's a man. He gets upset. He has a body. I mean, even in the Course in Miracles, it tells us, don't give God attributes you made him not. So again, the Course is always telling us, don't even think about God. It's beyond what we can understand. But clearly the God that formal religion, as we understand in this world, is a God that is in our image. And that's a mistake. And so we made this world based on guilt, and as we can see, it seeps out in so many ways in our life. And this is important to understand because we can begin to realize then that all the angry people, all the scared people, all the difficult things here in this world are of our making, and they're projections of guilt for us to justify and explain, well, this is the person who's bad, it's not me, I did nothing wrong, and I'm unhappy because of this, and so on. And so guilt ultimately sustains this world. And it's only by beginning to realize that you are guiltless, that at a whole nother level, beyond the time, space, and the world, that you've done nothing wrong. That you can't step away from your source. But believing you can will make it true for you. Just like, again, a child who's in the bedroom and he thinks there's a monster in the closet, and he calls in his parents and says, there's something terrible here, and he's afraid. The parents come in and show him there's nothing in the closet, but that doesn't matter. His belief that something was in there caused him fear. And we all have that fear, but for us, the monster is guilt. So in closing, I'm just going to read another little section here because I think it just fits in with everything. And I'll make my final point. As you look upon yourself and judge what you do honestly, you may be tempted to wonder how you can be guiltless. Yet consider this: you are not guiltless in time, but in eternity. You have sinned in the past, but there is no past. Always has no direction. Time seems to go in one direction, but when you reach its end, it will roll up like a long carpet spread along the past behind you and will disappear. As long as you believe the Son of God is guilty, you will walk along this carpet believing that it leads to death, and the journey will seem long and cruel and senseless, for so it is. So this is what the Course is trying to do, is save us time within the illusionary world of time by beginning to realize that we are not guilty, that we are inherently good, and that we've done nothing wrong. And again, that may not be our experience. I mean, I've done things here that are very ego-motivated and unloving because I understand that I was afraid. And that's not a sin. That's something simply to be forgiven in the sense that I made a mistake and it doesn't serve me. And that's what we want to do across the board. And so as we're on this journey of our lives, okay, and there's lack of peace because of all the fear and ego ploys that we surround ourselves with, it's important to remember the metaphysics of the Course so that we can forgive ourselves. And if we forgive ourselves, we will have less guilt within us to project onto others. And that will bring us to that place of seeing that we are all one and that nobody here is bad, regardless of what they do in form. Again, it's never about the behavior. Fearful people will do fearful things and mean things. But we have the ability to realize and understand why they're doing that and their own guilt. And so we will behave as normal people and do what we need to do, but we realize that ultimately what they do or we do is based on the fundamental mistake at a mind level that we've left our source. And the Course is trying to remind us you can't do that. And that's all we have to do. Just gather that into our awareness. And that kind of proper perception, again, is a form of forgiveness for ourselves and the world around us that brings us slowly to that place of peace where we will be able to ultimately remember that we're much more than this and that we are, as our source or God, whatever you want to call it, has made us one with Him, perfect oneness. And again, that's good news. So if you liked this video today, thank you for watching. Feel free to subscribe and hit a like. If you have any questions about any particular topics or anything that on a practical level in this world you would like my perspective on how the Course would view it, I will do my best to respond to that. And again, thank you very much, and I hope that you have a peaceful and loving day.